Hello and welcome to Grace Notes with Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace. I'm Bruce Apar of Chase Media Group. And we always, when we can, like to start off the show telling you about some of the upcoming events. And of course, as we know, coming up on Columbus Day is a huge day, right?
Right. Well,
I'm sorry, Supervisor.
oh, it is
I
a
have
big
it,
day
I have it in
for
my
you.
right. But
Yeah.
on Sunday, the day before Columbus Day, as we say in the Jewish faith, Erev Columbus Day. That's right. Erev Columbus Day on Sunday, October 7th in the morning is the Supporter Walk, Support Connection.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the, I guess, fourth annual, right? Yorktown
annual.
Street Fair and Festival. And we're keeping our fingers crossed with that weather forecast.
Yeah, I heard weather in the. I heard maybe in the morning it's going to drizzle, but
Yeah, hopefully, they'll just push ahead. Right?
check my iPhone.
Cautiously
Yeah,
optimistic.
right. And then October 8th, as you and I stuff know, we have our Harrison Apar YC Golf Classic at
Yeah, and
Johannesburg. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
right.
and I hope you're full. Or you?
Oh yeah, no, it's working out very well.
I spoke to someone about. I think it was John Testa. I saw him at the winery
Yeah,
at
the
the Jessica
one, yeah.
Lynn's concert, and I asked him, "You've got to get." He wanted to know if your son's video.
Oh yeah, I should show it to him. Yeah, I can get him. I have DVDs. Yeah.
You should put it online.
Yeah. I know. I need to
You
do
really
that.
do-
Yeah,
because
actually, it's like you should put it on YouTube. I don't know why I didn't think of
right.
that.
And if you do, we'll let the audience know when it
Yeah,
is.
when
And,
it-
and I really would recommend that when you get it on, not
Yeah.
if you get on, but when you get it
Oh
on,
yeah, I'll do it
that
soon.
people tune in and look at it because it's a very inspiring
It's
story.
enough. He
Very
definitely
inspiring.
continues to inspire me. And then on October 25th, we should mention the Yorktown Teen Center has its fundraising dinner at. Well, you go on the town website. I don't want to say the venue and then have it be wrong but anyhow, October 25th, Yorktown Teen Center, which does great work, as we all know, in town, is having its annual fundraising dinner. Michelle Marchetti, who was a teacher in the school for a long time, is being honored, and
Oh, nice.
Rick Cerrone, not the Yankee catcher, is the master of ceremonies, and so that'll be fun
Well,
too.
Rick Cerrone's still the Yankees.
Huh?
He was a manager.
He was the PR. Yeah, he was the head of public relations for the Yankees. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and on the 20th, I believe that's the Saturday night, right? It's at
Yeah,
the
October
Paramount.
20th is.
At the Paramount. Bernie Williams is performing with
Right.
the kids from the Teen Center.
Right.
is that right?
Well, Justin Veach Fund.
Justin
Veach
right,
Fund.
right,
Also, they're
which
calling.
is also,
Yeah, it was Jeff Veach, who we had on recently with Tom Inacari. Is calling it the Justin Veach All Stars, right? With Bernie Williams.
right.
Yeah,
And if
it's-
you get the VIP seats, you get to hang
meet
out with
Bernie,
Bernie
yeah.
Williams.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
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 And, I was in the gym working out last night, and I had two other knuckleheads there, and we were talking sports, and he said, was the three best ball players you've ever seen? And I said, well, and the limitation was you had to actually see them live.
Right.
Unfortunately, that meant just Yankees to me, but
You're right.
but Bernie Williams was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I was a
Oh,
Thurman
he was
Munson
great,
fan.
Bernie.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Thurman was my
Munson,
man.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, well, that was in the 70s. And,
Yes, it was.
And I was in Fordham College at the time. I used to sit in the bleachers, and that was taking your life in your hands back then. And, God, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's not too bad now. There's playoffs are starting. If tonight if they win, they're
beat
in
the Red Sox,
division
they
champs.
clinch the division. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's been exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
The last
Down
couple
to the
of weeks.
wire.
Yeah,
You
that's
think
right, yeah.
how many games did they play?
tell you, I'm
62.
games,
Yeah.
and it's coming down to the one game
Yeah.
to win the division.
That's what's great about baseball, because every game in the season counts.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
You
Yeah,
know, and
exactly.
so I'm a Jets fan too, so which is really cool because I can stop watching football and still watch the Yankees for meaningful games.
That's true. Yeah.
Poor Giants missed that field goal.
So, I mean, I thought one of the things you can't avoid, obviously, nor should we want to avoid talking about Costco. And there was a letter that was sent today to the planning department, and so I just thought, this might be a good opportunity to address the concerns. And as much as people, don't want to hear it, including sometimes me, but
Just
yeah,
before
I'm
we
sorry.
get started, we never introduced our guests, so even though I think everybody knows them, but
What's that? The sound of one hand clapping? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, Terrence Murphy, who everybody should know, Dr. Terrence Murphy, Yorktown Councilman. Terrence, welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
And we're hoping that you become more than a fleeting fixture here, but more of a permanent fixture. And I'm going to tell you, it's for me as town supervisor. Look, I think we've gotten a lot of things done in 9 months, and we're moving quickly and at a good pace. Actually, the biggest criticism I hear is guys are moving too quickly. But it wouldn't have been, I don't think the success over the last 9 months would have been possible without Terrence on the board. I mean, he's just.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, he's a great addition.
I
yeah.
absolutely mean that.
It's a
because
win-win back and
Right.
forth, you know what I mean?
It's just been, I always tell him I'm grateful he lost the county legislative race. But no matter how hard you try.
That's right.
It's great to, it really is. It's an absolute, for me, it's just, and I mean that bottom of my heart.
Yeah, well,
Thank you so
Terrence got
much.
a lot of
Appreciate
votes, so he's popular, yeah. A lot of
But now
votes.
we can go to Costco.
Yeah, so, well, wait. In fact, talking about keeping things moving, people understandably, they have every right to voice their opposition
Absolutely.
to Costco, and I think it's a valid concern to worry about traffic. I mean, everybody curses when they're sitting in traffic as it is. So this letter, I'll just quickly read it, and then, both of you can comment on the traffic situation when Costco is here, not if. So this is Dear Planning Board. Do you realize that according to the developer's own study, the traffic will be increased? And you can interrupt me as I read this. I don't have to read it straight through. So this woman is saying the traffic will be increased by at least 750 cars per hour.
Well, that's.
Okay, so what about
that's
that?
the first inaccuracy.
Okay.
Because it's not 750 car, it's 700 vehicle trips, which means so you have to have it. In other words, if you.
I mean back and forth.
Yeah.
Right, round
So
trip.
you'd have,
right.
so you'd have to cut that in half,
I'd
number
like to
one.
know where these statistics
Oh,
came
it
from.
just says to the developer's own study. Which
Yeah.
developer? Breslin? Is
No,
that-
that's
true,
Well, you're looking at 150,000 square foot of retail space. So
Right.
you would hope that you would have probably
People
about
coming,
300
sure.
people an hour coming
Right.
in and out, but if you take a look at it, the Staples Plaza is
Right.
more than 150,000 square feet of retail space.
Right. I mean, people seem to forget that point.
So,
right?
so the-
it's
so
big
right
down the road.
Right,
Right,
right.
I know.
So you'd expect, and the other thing is what it doesn't take into consideration is a lot of those trips aren't additional trips, but it's part of the other, it's part of the other shopping or people that are commuting or going back and forth. They're still there on the road anyhow.
Right. Not just because of Costco. Right.
Right, and one of the things they got to realize, and this is there's a bigger discussion for Route 202, but if you look at Route 202, and you look at the residential community that Route 202 serves, so that would be everything, let's say, west of the Taconic, certainly south of 202, but even as you go west of the Taconic, you're probably almost going to Peekskill. So you have you go west of Lexington, south of 202,
Right.
and then also towards the north, so you get a lot of traffic coming from Mohegan, a lot of traffic from Cortland, a lot of traffic from the Mill Pond area. All that traffic, and this has been a big bone of contention even for the planners, long-term planners, is saying that there isn't any retail space that services that whole segment of the residential population. So that residential population is constantly on the go outside of that residential areas and onto 202 to go to either up towards 6 or go east towards the Heights area or go east towards Baldwin Place because there's no shopping there.
Right.
So the bottom line is a lot of the other, if you create a local retail base there, you're going to alleviate a lot of the traffic that would otherwise be having to be traveling through that area to go to retail
Right.
areas.
Like Cortland Town Center.
I grew up right up the road. It was white. Staples, that whole plaza there
Right.
was White's shopping center back in the day where you could get a pair of jeans, grocery shop, and get a haircut all in the same spot. We used to walk through the woods right down there. 202 has been an absolute nightmare since I've been a little
Right.
kid, coming out of Pine Grove, trying to make a left to go to the milk plant to pick up milk
Right.
back in the day. It hasn't gotten any better. We now have the opportunity of getting public and private funds to marry one another and open up 202. It is our duty to look at these opportunities that arises from the town to try and fix some of our infrastructure problems, which we've had a problem with for the past, since I've been a kid, for almost 50 years we've been in town here.
Right.
I'm not 50 yet, but it's been that way since I've been a little kid. we have to look at these opportunities right now to actually take private and public funds, put them together, because DOT is coming in and they're doing that whole Pine Grove turn there, right down in there.
Yeah.
And they're going to come right up. Costco can come right back down, meet them halfway, go up to Strang Boulevard, and open up 202
Right,
right down.
and you're talking about, I think on the latest numbers, the contribution to the road improvements
Right.
on 202, I think Costco's 30% contributed to it.
Really, that
Well,
much?
that's it?
Yeah, I
Right.
think it's
That's
3 out of 10 million, 3 million out of 10 million.
That's significant money.
Exactly, and the thing is, what I always get a kick out of when I sit at these meetings is everybody tells me that they've been having a problem on 202, and it's been going on for 20 years. Right, and where do you think the first nickel is, and nobody's invested a nickel in 202 to do anything about it.
Right.
And because the state really, what drives, for the New York State, because New York State owns 202.
202, yeah.
New York State, if you, Department of Transportation owns roads, especially in the rural areas of
Right.
New York, all over the place.
Right.
And they're all two-lane roads. And they all go through all these towns. And every town in the state of New York complains about their little bottleneck.
Right, right.
And they all want New York State to do something about it. And New York State has a huge list of complaints.
Complaints,
traffic,
right,
and
yeah,
traffic
yeah,
laws. So
right.
Terrence and I actually went up to Albany.
DOT.
Yeah, and met with
Right,
them. And
right.
we were talking to them about the mall and the berm there and what we needed to do if we were going to remove that. And we got that all cleared up with the help of Assemblyman Steve Katz.
Right.
And we
You had mentioned too, as we're wrapping up, he goes, "Oh, by the way, I got this one little project that we're thinking about doing. It's called 202."
Yeah.
And he explained it very eloquently to the director of DOT, and she says, "We'd be very interested in doing and working with you on that."
but her,
Really?
yeah.
Out of the clear blue,
Right.
out of the clear blue.
And but what
Because exactly what you're saying, the only reason
had-
why she was interested is because we were gonna get
Private
other
money.
funding.
Right, right.
And it
Yeah,
wasn't
it's-
gonna
it's like
be
matching
strictly
funds.
them.
Right,
Exactly what you're saying, Mike.
We turned around and said,
100%.
we got all these projects.
have even been interested.
We're looking to get them to make a contribution.
Right.
But we need them to make, in order to make a sensible contribution, we want to know, we want to tell them what the infrastructure is that they're going to be contributing to.
Right.
So she said, well, you got a really good shot at this if you've come up with.
Yes.
It's a combination of local, private, and
right.
state funds. They'll do it.
Right.
And the thing is, it was interesting. We were at the ribbon cutting for the opening of the Ambets Bridge, and
Oh, that was today, right?
It was
Well,
yesterday.
yesterday, yeah, right.
It's open today.
Yeah, I know, yeah,
and
right, thank goodness.
Cuomo's office representatives were there. The commissioner of DOT was there, and they were very proud of the fact that they got this thing done
Done on
and-
time.
and on
Time,
time
yeah,
and
right.
everything. And it would, this is how government works when it works efficiently and well and everything else. And so it got my turn to speak, and I said, "Yeah, you guys did such a bang-up job. I got a road a little bit more north of here than I want you." So they got a chuckle out of that. But the point is that ironically, in this particular environment, the thing that gets the attention of upper level of government is jobs.
Right.
And revitalization of downtown areas. Now, you have the smart growth people, which is, and actually you have recent New York State legislation which is called smart infrastructure, and it's
Right.
I forget what it's an acronym, and I forget what the SMART stands for, but it's but they do a scoring on any request for funding from the state to meet certain criteria, and a lot of it is they're really looking, instead of the urban sprawl.
Right.
They're looking to recreate, or reinvest in the downtown areas or blighted areas.
Right.
And they want, and they'll score the request for funding based upon certain criteria, which is and actually Route 202 meets that criteria perfectly, because the south side of Route 202 is a dilapidated, deteriorated commercial base, which never seems to get off the ground.
Yeah.
because of access in and out of it. It's not only for the local economy, which I mean the 202 economy, but for the regional economy. 202 is a main artery which has to function
Right.
correctly in order for everybody, all the other communities to thrive, which is
Right.
Peekskill and Somers and everybody else. When I talk to Mayor Foster, I say, I love the fact that Peekskill is revitalizing because that does great things for Yorktown. So
Right.
we're interconnected communities.
Right.
So it's a very to me a very important project, and traffic is a issue, but it is an issue that at the end of the day with Costco, it's going to be better than it was.
You've got to start somewhere, and
Right.
New York State does not have the money to do it by themselves.
No,
It's as
nor
simple as
should
that.
they, by the way. I mean,
No.
it shouldn't be a handout, right?
They've been
It's,
working on a
a
sustainable
subsidy, right.
development study for the past 15 years, and that was where Bear Mountain comes out by McDonald's right there, because they didn't have enough money to continue going, and it was supposed to run parallel to 202.
With the extension,
A
yeah,
mini
the Bear
highway
Mountain
here
extension,
versus you can get your local. They ran out of money, so they cut it
So
right
they
back
stopped.
onto 202.
Right.
And that's where it's been for the
They're
past
supposed
15
to circumvent
years.
202, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Right,
Exactly. Run parallel right into Cortland and
Right.
Peekskill,
Right.
so you can get the commuters that need to get to the parkway.
Right, and then the other thing, the smart growth people, I mean, they have this, like I always call it the Norman Rockwellian
Right, view,
concept
yeah.
of little small, mom and pop shops, and everybody knows each other, and we walk down, which is great, and everybody loves that.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have that.
But the bottom line is 202 is never going to
It's-
produce.
no, it- right.
They're never going to produce that atmosphere.
Was it the cows are out of the barn, or?
And, well, there was, and what they actually go back to, I think some of the smart growth people have a vague memory that at one time there was a proposal for that property to do sort of these outlet shops.
Yes,
which would
there
be,
was.
right, smaller
there
outlet
was.
shops. And unfortunately, the town of Yorktown, in processing that application, lost it.
Right.
All right, because it's and what they don't understand is somebody made an analogy online about waiting around for Mr. Right, and you're Mr. Right may be right in front of you, and you're still
Right,
you're
right,
still looking
yeah.
for the perfect love, and so
Exactly, no, right.
And the thing is that
Point.
202 is if you look at it completely from the Taconic to Lexington Avenue, you can look at it as its own commercial strip, and it should be a combination of both something like Costco, something that may go on State Land Corp., plus then the south side of 202, which are smaller lots, shallow lots, would be that the smaller retailers or smaller commercial professional commercial income producing commercial.
Right.
I truly believe once Costco gets in, and if the state land gets something done on there, those other little, what you were just saying, the smaller little commercial spots are going to just pop. People are going to want to come there, and we're not even going to have to ask. They're going to want to come in and fill up those
Right.
spots.
And then
you're
as-
going to have your whole nice little commercial corridor where it belongs.
No,
on
and that's a very
202.
good point, Terrence. What they don't seem to understand is the retail concept of an anchor store,
Right.
like you have in a mall. That's
Have it at every
That's
mall.
exactly-
Bruce.
that's
One
That's
on
what
each
it is,
side.
right? And yeah, but the other thing is when they talk about it should be instead for mixed use, like strip mall retail stores. My gosh, there's empty retail space in Yorktown now. So you want to build more vacant space?
Well,
right?
there is, David.
Right.
Well, a kind of compelling and argument, which is filled with hyperbole, is that you're going to put the little guy out of business. And what smart growth people have to understand too is the economies of small business.
Right.
And unfortunately, first of all, I'll digress. Yorktown's tax base is almost 80% non-commercial, which would be residential, condominium, co-op, and the rest of it is there's some segment that is not-for-profit or exempt,
Right.
and then there's your commercial,
Utilities.
and then there's commercial, which is is under 20%, and I think 12 or 13%. So it's unsustainable, and what they also have to understand when we deal with budgets and we deal with bond ratings, it doesn't make really much difference how much money you have on hand or how frugal you are with your with your budgets. The bottom line is lending institutions, when they're going to rate you, look at your potential tax base, because they want to know if you're going to go back and rely just on residential assessments for your taxes,
Right.
they don't like you.
Right,
So they want to see a strong non-residential tax
Right.
base. That's what's lacking in Yorktown. So you need to focus and start to build that. The other thing on 202 is that there's restrictions on sewer. So
Right.
you can't do residential.
Right.
So the residential, and actually that comprehensive plan, the sustainability study said that you shouldn't have residential. That's why the state land corp went from 1 acre residential to 4 acre
4 acres, yeah.
residential. So there's a lot of infrastructure restrictions in doing even the residential development. So it really is, and it is the one corridor where you could have good commercial development.
Right.
And it really is necessary for the long-term stability, economic stability of the town.
Right.
I agree with them that you don't want to create, nobody wants to create a Central Avenue, but
No,
this was
no,
our
right.
big push to do the Boulevard
Boulevard
approach.
Right.
Which I think John Teddiger came up with a
Yeah.
wonderful plan.
Right.
And so that-
Absolute wonderful plan.
And you've got, I think,
Happens to be our planning
Right.
board head.
and 500 acres of open spaces all behind that area.
Right.
So behind Costco, behind State Land Corp, there's 500 acres of open space with trails. So it's never going to turn into Central Avenue. It's not going to happen. But you need to revitalize that. It's a perfect place to start to do. Other thing I was saying is that unfortunately with the skew of the tax base being mostly residential and very little commercial, Terrence and I are both small business owners in town. Your turning on the lights, bottom line floor costs of turning on your lights is so high for one reason: the taxes are so high.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So your cost per dollar of revenue is so
Right,
high,
it's high, yeah.
that you love to have mom and pop shops, but and I love all these people say that's what we want, mom and pop shops. For those people that want mom and pop shops, why don't you go out and try to be a mom and pop shop?
Oh,
in
yeah,
this
I know,
economy?
that is very,
It's not going to happen.
Exactly, it's very difficult, yes,
And
right.
you're going to certainly find out that all of a sudden it's not the fact that you're not a good retailer or you're not a good businessman,
Right.
or you don't have a
Yeah,
good
it's-
product. Is that your costs per dollar of revenue are so high based
point
upon
you're
the
making,
underlying taxes that you can't survive.
Right.
So the
Right.
Big point.
economies are that you need to lower your cost per square foot of revenue. And the only people that are successful in doing that are
big, right.
the big guys.
Large scale, yeah.
We had Jack's, the Wayback Burger place opened up.
Yes.
But they're also, a lot of.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, and a lot of what I think we were talking before we got on the air, a lot of the small businesses or the little places are national chains.
Right, exactly, right.
So it's, your small businesses that can actually make it are your McDonald's, your Burger King, your Starbucks, your Walgreens, your CVS's, whatever it is, but they're national chains because they have the economies that allow them to absorb the high cost
Right, and
per
that's-
dollar of revenue.
And you used, the right word, Supervisor, hyperbole, And it should be stated, this letter I'm referring to, it comes from a Yorktown resident, Joanna Cali, C-A-L-I, and then it also has this gentleman's name actually as the signature, Stephen Rosenbaum. So I'm inferring it's really a form letter that the smart growth people are going to be sending.
right.
But one of the things that's in the form letter that maybe Mr. Rosenbaum wrote it appears, is that just what you were saying about how long am I supposed to have to wait in traffic because some big out-of-state corporation wants to earn money? But the truth of the matter is, you go to Starbucks, you go to McDonald's, you go to I don't know, TCBY, Taco Bell, Kmart. They're out-of-state corporations.
And so is
Right,
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Point taken, you know what I mean? That's any type of franchise is going to be nationally known and out of state.
But most of the car dealerships, most of the businesses here are out-of-state corporations.
Right, you got Cablevision.
So if you're out of state, you're not allowed to come in here and do business?
No, right.
But there was a point that I wanted to make with Costco, though, which I think has been lost in the shuffle here, is that, as a good neighbor, they're hooking up 13 people to the sewer district.
Costco is.
Yes.
They're paying for that.
Yeah.
Yes, they're paying for it,
Right.
and it's going to cost them close to $500,000 for trying to be a nice neighbor and do the right thing. These are things that those people on Old Crampon Road are going to be hooked up to sewers, and
Right.
they were having some problems with their septics, and they made it. They came in, and Costco was negotiating with back and forth, and it worked out wonderful for them.
Yeah.
and hopefully it just
Yeah, and this is, it always has to be said too. What is the site now?
Yeah, I know.
The
Right.
site is
I
a
pass that every morning. I
dilapidated
go down
hotel.
because I live in Jefferson Valley and I come up to Yorktown and my mom's right there. And we literally lived across. Back in the day, Brody's was in there. Brody's North was in there. So, and that's where we live off Mahansick Avenue. You go, there's holes in the roof. There's graffiti all over the place. The windows are
yeah, I
broken.
know,
It's overgrown. The road that's going in, it's a perfect location right off the Taconic Parkway, easy on, easy off. But BJ's is encouraging Costco to come in.
And
They want it. They want them. It's going to be, which I feared was BJ's would run out of business, would go out of business. And after seeing the studies, BJ's is like, listen, they're going to be a great.
Why? What did the studies show?
oh, it says retailers love retailers. So it's you want to go to any major intersection anywhere, you're going to find two gas
McDonald's,
stations.
Burger King.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and Shell's, Texaco. I mean,
Costco,
Right.
BJ's, or Sam's Wholesale.
Right.
Anywhere you go,
Yeah,
within a
Food
half
courts.
mile radius.
That's why food courts came into being, right? It's
right.
all
If you go,
together, right.
I mean,
right.
You just go to travel any interstate, get off any exit. There's 4 gas stations.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's where
Right.
but the other, the other thing that also needs to be said is that, let's say, I adopt smart growth thinking, and I'm not saying, some of it has validity, and actually, I like the idea of, creating downtown areas. I love that
Yes,
idea, and
right.
and I think we have that great opportunity in the Heights area. So I'm really, really hoping that I see all these people come out in major support when we unveil our plans for the removal of the highway garage and the rehabilitation of that property. That's your downtown area. That's where it's going to be. And so hopefully they'll all be here cheering that on. But the bottom line is, you've got a big site there. So how do you're going to need one developer to cut into, to try to create multiple small retail spaces, which would be a large strip mall, so to
Right,
speak. And that's it's maybe lovely to think that can happen, but it's absolutely unrealistic that anybody's going to make that investment in it. And let's say they do. Let's say they go ahead and make that investment, and you can get somebody to do that. You may, that site can accommodate at least 150,000 square feet that, Costco's going to come in and with. So the sites can easily accommodate 150,000 square feet made up of smaller stores as well.
Right.
The problem is that you're not going to have the one major player that's going to make the contribution to the infrastructure.
Right.
So the infrastructure is not going to be paid for out of tax dollars.
Right.
So even if they have to understand that even to finance or to create or to make economically attractive their dream of what they think that site should be, that's going to be a much bigger expense to the taxpayer in the long run.
I think at this point, anything's better than what it is right there.
Of course.
I mean,
Right.
if you've really actually passed by there, it's atrocious.
Yeah, I know.
It's
embarrassing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's embarrassing.
It's really.
No, and it'll be interesting. What I think has been good up until now is I think the anti-Costco group have been, with just a few exceptions, have been very reasonable and measured in their criticism. So
Yes.
they've been polite and they've been measured and they've been, and what's very good for the town, I think, at this point is that the issues are honed. It's very discreet. We have the issue of traffic, which I think is resolved because the road improvements are going to be made. You have the issue of, well, is it good or bad for small business? And the bottom line is, I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of small businesses that will benefit because a lot of small businesses buy from BJ's and Costco for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, sure they do. Right,
So
sure,
it lowers their
right.
price of doing business. Does it create some competition? Yes. Will it create competition in the price of gasoline in Yorktown? Absolutely.
Right.
But that's a great thing.
Right.
Because if you survey the price of gasoline in the town of Yorktown, I'm going to tell you right now, based upon the ownership of most gas stations, it's a lot higher than it is anywhere else. Yeah. So this is going to be a gas station owned by somebody else that owns or most of the remaining gas stations in the town of Yorktown, providing competition. So all those gas stations to compete are going to have to drop their prices to where they should be in the first place.
No.
I'm going to segue this as an analogy. We just went out on our garbage contract.
Right,
Yes.
yes, oh, yeah,
Right?
good point, yes.
And the way we approached it was we took a look at the old bid, and they had certain specifications in the old bid that would restricted the ability of startups to bid on that service.
Right,
And it not only restricted the type of employee that the bidder had to employ. So it was a restriction. It basically required certain amounts of experience for the guy actually driving the truck or picking up the garbage at 5 years.
It was so specific,
and-
driven
and
that
the,
a new guy was nowhere. He was
Couldn't-
unable to break in.
Right. And you had to be in business in the carting business for 10 years.
10 years. So that's what I'm saying. So you can't. A new guy is not allowed.
It was rigged.
Right,
yeah.
so to take out, just taking out those two requirements allowed anybody to, I always said, you could get you could get we could sit down and say, look, we could capitalize our own corporation and know exactly what it would cost us to capitalize a corporation to pick up Yorktown's garbage.
Right.
And bid it based upon that. But if I have this 10-year.
Then you're right.
Then I can't
Out of
do
luck,
it.
yeah.
We have a startup company that bid on that garbage collection. $1 million less than we were paying.
$1 million.
I know, it's incredible.
That was our biggest tax increase for the town of Yorktown. Town taxes was the refuse last year. That was the biggest part.
So
of our tax increase was the refuse, because the contract ran out and they came in and kind of had us in
over a
handcuffs and
barrel,
said, here's what you take it and go. And I remember, to be honest with you, I voted against it. It was a 4-1 vote. I voted against it because I thought that the vetting process hadn't gone out to the appropriate people and we hadn't done our homework, so to speak. And kudos to Mike for bringing it back up again and actually taking a look at the contract, because it's $1 million decrease.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's
it really is.
unbelievable.
That's great, oh, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And so
It is unbelievable.
apropos, competition, if my duty here is not to ensure BJ's profits, it's
course
not to
not.
ensure
No.
anybody's
No,
profits.
right.
My duty here is to do what's best for the town. And the thing is, in terms of providing competition, and in this case, let's say on gasoline prices.
Right.
I have an opportunity to do that. That's going to lower the, it's coming out of everybody's pocket one way or the other. But you know what? I'd rather be spending 5-10 cents a gallon less on gas if I
Sure,
could.
that's right.
And I think anybody that lives here would.
Yeah.
So the thing is, there's a lot. These are the things that are important to consider. The anti-Costco group, again, they've been very very discreet. We know exactly what their we know exactly what their issues are.
where they stand, yes.
And those issues, I think, are very easily addressed.
And they will. They will be addressed. October 15th is the public hearing at the YCC in the Senior Center
Good,
for
and, yeah.
Costco.
No, thank you,
That is
Terrence, for reminding
extremely
everybody.
important
Yeah.
for the people that want Costco and the people that are
And
actually.
what's the time? 7 p.m. is it, or?
Should be. I don't know what it's
I
on
don't
there.
know the
Who
exact
knows
time.
what else is on their agenda tonight?
7:30
p.m. Thank you, Tom.
is October 15th is the public hearing. And what the public hearing is for people to come out and say whatever they want to say
Right.
for or against Costco. And Costco has the obligation to, in their FEIS, which is the final environmental impact statement, to answer each and every one's questions.
And so that goes back to this letter where this woman, Joanne Calley, and Stephen Rosenbaum are asking at the next town meeting, but they would like to formally request a projected traffic count after the project is built. I mean, but to get to the chase, cut to the chase, I mean, are there more traffic studies going to be done, or are there,
the idea here.
He's a good guy.
Right, yeah, right,
He's a
yeah.
Yorktowner.
He's
too,
a
yeah.
Yorktown guy, and I'm sure he wouldn't want to, cut any short corners, knowing that, he's got skin in the game, so
Yeah,
to speak.
yeah.
So, and their DEIS, I don't know if you've taken a look, it's 2,200 pages. It's extremely detailed. The DEIS.
the traffic study? Yeah.
No, the whole thing.
you're talking about the DEIS is 2,200 pages, right,
The
right,
environmental
right.
impact.
It's a
draft.
draft environmental impact
Right,
statement.
right.
And it's called a draft because that's the first round. And then what
Right.
happens is based upon
Then you get to the FEIS,
comment,
right?
yeah,
The-
comment, the
Comment,
public
the
hearing,
public hearing,
you get
they
the
have to
final.
answer
Right,
the
right.
questions.
the planning board can require additional information in order to create a final environmental impact statement, but they, depending, let's say you bring up issues that are fully addressed in the draft,
Right,
then that's the end of it.
right.
You know,
And traffic's part of the environmental impact.
right, so you can,
It's 2,200 pages.
right, you
I
can,
think they've done their homework so
You-
far.
and you can get somebody say, well, there's a traffic, well, the traffic is there. So there's no really, there's no need maybe to further study traffic. If it's completed
Right.
and thoroughly vets the issue,
Can anybody?
you can't, just because you raise it, that
doesn't-
doesn't mean
right.
that it's required to be answered.
Okay, right,
You know, only
right.
those things that are
Legitimate.
are lacking in study or the
Right.
the idea behind
Insufficient, right.
idea behind an environmental review is to make sure that all the issues are fully vetted. But if they're
Right.
fully vetted in the DEIS, then that can be accepted as the FEIS.
Right,
Because
Right.
if there's nothing else to be said
right,
other than arguing what is said or how you interpret what is said, that's not really a basis to do an FEIS. That's a basis to say, well, it's all vetted. We understand that this is your interpretation. But if it's fully vetted, that's all that needs to be
and can
done.
anybody look at this, like Joanne Calley or Steve
Yeah,
Rosebud?
yeah,
Can they go
they-
and look at
I
this
think
stuff?
It's online.
It's online.
Okay, so that's part of the answer.
Yeah.
It's right online.
Okay.
Right.
They've really put a lot of homework
On
into that.
the town of Yorktown website.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
they've got
and then
some
after-
top quality guys that have done their studies and they're engineers, and they've really spent quite a few, I think close to a few $1 million on
And then
this.
what happens is that, after that, there's still, once this is accepted and final, then they'll more than likely have a hearing on the site plan anyhow,
Right.
which will then start to wrap the process up. Other thing that has to be said, because there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Right.
Well, that's
In regard to the master plan versus the zoning code and that the site is not in comport with the master plan, the
Right.
master plan calls for something else. It needs to be understood what a master plan is. Master plan is sort of like the overall plan for the town. Okay, so you really look in very broad strokes.
Right.
So, and it's not very definitive as to any particular piece of property. What is the plan
Right.
for the particular piece of property is this designated zoning. So the town adopted this master plan, which, aside from, to me, there's some serious issues with the master plan that was adopted.
Right.
And the one glaring example is State Land Corp., which is on the north side of 202, which went from 1 acre residential to 4 acre residential, which basically meant that you neutered the land.
Right.
And there you have, it's on a commercial corridor, it should be commercial, and why?
It should have been a CR1.
Right,
CR10.
What's that?
Commercial, regional shopping center.
Okay,
You're right.
And what they did is they said, they wanted it, they had this whole notion of the sustainability study, wanted limited residential. So the master plan says, well, we were going to go from 1 acre residential to 4 acre residential, but it's not, we'll leave in there that it's also may be appropriate for commercial.
Right. Right.
How does 4 acre residential go along with possibility commercial? I mean,
Commercial,
you're
right.
really, opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. Right.
So, so it's, just on that, it's flawed. There was a lot of things that I think were flawed. And I think a lot of the flaws in the master plan stem from the fact that the town, and I think this was a big mistake and a very expensive one for the town, was advised, by whomever they were advised, to go to outside consultants. And I think they had hired Sife Paget, which is an environmental law firm, and other people.
Paget.
Outside of the town, I think they probably spent $1 million, 7 figures to do this master plan,
Right.
if not more.
More.
I'll tell you, it's those out-of-state corporations.
Get them out of here.
Yeah, but we used to have with all the other master plans that were done by the town. It was done by people within the town that volunteered. It was Ed Colleen up in up out of Shrub
Colleen,
Oak. It was
Ray
Bill
Arnold.
Boucher, Ray Arnold.
yeah.
Judy Reardon was. I think there was a lot of people, and they were all Yorktowners that understood Yorktown, had a history in Yorktown, understood where the vision was.
Right.
And I think the big mistake was to go to somebody else and say, come on, come in.
Big money.
And, yeah, and we're going to pay you to design our town, which is a complete mistake.
Right.
In my opinion. Anyhow, with that said, there's certain properties that we used to call interchange properties. And the interchange being basically you have the Deconic running through town and you have some major routes intersect the Deconic, 16 and 1202. You know, you had Capelli's project, which is up on the northwest quadrant of 6th and Barger Street. That was supposed, you know, these were big leftover parcels. A really good example of what Costco is most analogous with is on the northeast corner of the intersection of the Deconic and Route 6, which is Contractors Register.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That's
All
right.
right? I'm going to tell you, nobody,
Yeah.
Contractors Register is a big square footage.
The blue book.
Big-
Or what is it called? The blue,
I
black
don't-
book?
yeah,
Blue
blue,
book.
I think it's-
Right,
It's
right,
a
right.
major,
Right.
it's a
Oh, yeah,
major,
right.
you know, and
hidden.
and you don't even know it's there.
Right, exactly,
All right.
yeah. When somebody told me it's there, I said, what?
Yeah, you gotta go
Right, you don't
find
even
out,
know
look
it's
for it,
there.
right?
Right next to my house.
What?
Yeah,
You
right,
wouldn't
that's
even
right,
know
that's
it.
where you live.
And
Yeah,
that's a major development on that intersection.
Yeah.
What's another one? Go the west side of the Deconic and the north side of 202, and you have Mercy College.
Yes, right, Mercy, yeah.
And
Yeah,
what's
Strang,
that got to?
Strang,
That's
right.
got to be 250,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Right?
that's right, yeah.
Is
Right.
anybody?
It's huge.
Has anybody
As a
complained?
matter of fact,
It's-
Medicare used to have their headquarters there.
Right.
the
Keller
regional
Williams used to be over
Right,
there,
right,
yeah.
right. Does
right,
right. I've never heard a complaint about anything.
Right.
On,
That's right.
Right. What else do you have? Then you have on the on the south side of 202 and to the east is FDR Park. So that's land that's all locked up forever going to be parkland. So all that quadrant is forever going to be there. You're not making, I can't make Central Avenue out of it. It's always going to be there. It's always been a park. And,
Right.
You know, and then you go into the Costco. You go onto the quadrant on the south side of where Costco is, and that is basically Mahansic Avenue.
Mahansick Avenue,
Right.
Ellen Lane, that's
Right.
back in that area.
So
You have-
that's
no,
all-
but you have a huge piece of parcel back there, Wilkins Fruit Farm.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right
yeah.
back there. Right. So, and that leads right down, and they were, that's a big,
On
huge
White
farm
Hill,
up
yeah,
there.
right,
right.
White Hill, that
Right,
goes down
right.
into Huntersbrook,
Huntersbrook,
which
right,
opens,
right.
which opens wide open.
So nothing's ever, you know, and yeah, that's not going to ever change.
Right.
You have, and what you have, I think, a temple that was supposed to go on the old Steve London piece.
Yeah, right, that's
Beth
right,
Ann,
that's
Beth
right.
Ann.
It fell
Right,
through,
and,
yeah.
you know, and the problem with those kinds of developments is that they give you traffic.
Right.
They do, and, certain days of the week and whatever, with worship and everything else, but you get no revenue out of them.
Right.
No
Right.
revenue out of them,
Right,
whether
right,
they're rateable. And, so you look and, the Costco is really, the site begs for it.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And the zoning.
Excited to have it.
I know, right.
And it's just, it's compatible with the zoning. So this debate of what the master plan said, but the zoning is the plan
Right,
for that site.
Yeah.
And there's the plan, it's an as-of-right develament.
right.
All
But I
right?
think in the master
Yeah.
plan, didn't it call for that piece of property? Was it a CR1?
Most of these were, the Steve London piece across the street was where the temple is going, used to be, oh, God, he was C3, and then he went to OB1, or I remember we drafted another OB, office business district, because he was going to put in, that's when, in the Reagan era, when office space was a big hot item, and he had this beautiful, development, but he never got off the ground, and the temple's going there.
The
but-
three flexible pieces of property when the master plan was being drawn up were state land.
Right.
Was because we knew Costco was coming in, so Costco, we actually changed that to the CR1 and Croton Overlook.
Right.
Because they were hot involved,
right.
and so we wanted the flexibility to give these people, we didn't want them stuck in, boxed in, because if they were gonna, we didn't know what state land was gonna bring to the table.
Right.
So that was, originally, they wanted to put affordable housing up there, like 100 units of affordable housing.
Right.
And what was, that place was originally where Home Depot
Right.
And,
right, yeah,
and it was back in, I think, the early 80s, that's where
Homework, yeah.
the whole entire area where
Cortland Town-
Cortland Town Center was supposed to go right there.
Right, right.
And at the 11th and a half hour, I think Linda Puglisi came in and said, wait a second, you're going to have a lot of traffic. And they said, oh, you're right. And so she met with them and took them 6 miles across the border and gave us all the traffic.
Right.
And that's where we stand. We get
That's
all the
where we are
traffic.
today.
Well,
Yeah,
somebody
right.
made a point the other night, the motto was progress with preservation. And, without the motto, I think there's not a township, a municipality anywhere that doesn't look to preserve its character, preserve its past, preserve
right.
its history, but also move forward. So,
right.
That's, some should be a motto for anywhere, everywhere.
Right.
The thing
I
is,
think they've done that very well
Yeah.
here. I mean, we literally have 3,400 acres of open space in the town of Yorktown. I think they've done a great job
Yes.
doing that, honestly. And it's just, I think what we have to do is get earmarked that and kind of get a book and figure out where all of our open space is.
Right.
Really find out what we actually have in the town. But on retrospect is actually progressing forward.
Right.
Such as now our next step is getting Costco in and then making our little commercial corridor here so we can get some of the tax revenue from them and make the town a progress with preservation. You're going to have a happy median, a balance.
Yes,
You can't
right.
have 80%, 20%. You got to have a 50-50.
Right.
No, and the other thing is, all these, having a vibrant, commercial tax base is keeps your, it has an effect on keeping your taxes lower because it translates into the cost of borrowing money for the municipality. It translates into a lot of things.
Our bond rating.
Everything, yeah. Other people got to understand, it is the value of your everybody's homes are devalued by the high taxes.
Right.
I had a discussion with somebody who says, paying 42, it was upstairs.
Yeah, we're just having it, right.
Pay $40,000 a year in taxes. Well, if I was paying $20,000 a year in taxes, my home would be worth a couple $100,000 more.
Right.
So they have to understand that as well. And the thing is, it's not, I appreciate the comments, but I think our duty in the position of governing is that understanding that not everybody is in the same position. Yorktown is very very middle class, hardworking bunch of people, and they struggle to make ends meet. And whatever we can do to help that, and to to move towards decreasing the taxes.
It's our obligation.
Yeah,
Right.
And that may not be an easy thing to do, to try to keep a rein in on them
Right.
is something that I think we can do. But it's a huge, the projection on the school taxes, I think, was $700,000.
It's 680.
Right, which is a full, on a 90, and that would be Yorktown, on a $91 million budget would be, so 900,000 would be 1%, I guess.
Right.
So you're talking about 0.75%.
Yeah.
You're talking 0.75%, and you say, well, it doesn't sound like much, it doesn't sound like I'm getting a lot, and what's that translate into dollars and cents to me? But understand this, when the school district is facing their 2% tax cap,
Yeah.
having 0.75% revenue coming in
right.
against that tax cap makes their job
Huge,
a lot
huge,
huge.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
It's like, if you talk about
Home run.
Yeah.
But
If you talk about Town of
every
Yorktown.
year,
Every
year.
Right.
And
Recurring
so you
revenue,
can start
right,
to, with that 0.5% or 0.75% of revenue towards your total bill, you can start to, it's significant. Think about if the school district, if the town can go negative on its rate
Yeah, that
every
would be-
year.
yeah, that would
If I can chop off 0.5%,
Well,
0.75%, 1%, eventually, what's been happening over time has been the reverse. We go up 2%, we
yes,
go up
right,
2%, we
right,
go up 3%,
right,
we go, and so you're sitting there, how many people out there would like to have seen their revenue increase by 2 to 3% a year over the last 10, 15 years? They'd
Right.
love it.
And
That's-
actually, John Testa was saying the other night that, and don't quote me, I was told this, that in the city of Peekskill, they're going to have to lay off town employees to keep the increase to 6%. I mean, that's what he was saying. I mean, so it's tough.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, there's.
huge.
And you know what, I got to be honest with you, this town has done their due diligence. We have not laid off one person.
Right, which
We've
is
kept
right.
a roof over people's head, and
Right.
we've kept food on their table, and we've done the right thing here.
Even if there's a leaky roof here and there. Anyhow,
Well,
Patch on it.
you're working on that, right? I know you are.
The bottom line is that it doesn't, even for Yorktown, if they come in with, I can't remember what the figures were for Yorktown, but I think it was maybe 175,000
Yeah,
or something like
which
that.
equates
We're
to
good to
1%.
1%.
Right.
So the thing is, it's not insignificant, and people have to understand this. But it's not only that's going to be that becomes the annual, because that increases over time as well. So, but we also get there's an enormous amount of fees that are generated, and building permit fees and everything else,
Right.
and then it also stirs up the local economy. You got money circulating through it, so you can't. You're not going to, it would be great to figure out a way to knock off, to have everybody's tax bill, but in order to do that, you've got to decimate the
Right.
whole entire structure of government.
Right.
Even if you eliminated town of Yorktown government completely, it'd only knock off 30% of your taxes or 20% of your taxes.
We're the lowest part of your tax bill.
Right.
The
But
your town
Right.
taxes are actually the lowest
yeah.
part. And I was saying to you upstairs, so if,
Right.
if BJ's or, if Costco's going to come in and give a $700,000 windfall to the school,
Right.
I would hope that we don't see that, we find the money to spend someplace else. You actually, you hold your bar.
Right, right.
Right.
You hold your bar. Exactly what you were saying. Hold your bar and see if you can kind of
Right.
keep whacking away
But
at
it-
this
Right.
and figuring it out, and then actually giving the people, a little,
but it-
breathing room.
Yeah.
Right,
Right,
so
right, relief.
if they knock off 1% of the, let's say they get close to 1% of what the school tax is. So this 70% of your tax bill is going to be reduced by 1%. If, the other 30% is also likewise going to be reduced by 1% of the town's portion.
Right.
Then you have the, but if you don't, in other words, what has to happen is we have to chip away at it.
Right,
exactly.
And there are very limited opportunities in the town to create a future commercial tax base. Very limited
right.
opportunities. And those limited opportunities is because we do want to preserve the character of the town, and
Right.
we're going to preserve the character of the town. And we can enhance I'm going to tell you, I travel down 202 almost on a daily basis. And I always drive down there, and I just envision them. I think there's so many communities I've been through in the United States, in different towns and cities and everything else. And all I can think of is imagine if you had this nice landscape Center Island Boulevard thing, and you had upscale. You could have upscale commercial retail, but you could also have. You're going to attract businesses as
Right,
well,
right.
because the whole idea is. As a business, do I want to be on a swath of 5 lanes of blacktop where all the utilities are, lining each side of the road and, no, I don't. But if you give me, if you give me a nice little boulevard and I got nice restaurants here and I got good retail here, I may turn around and say, this is a perfect place for me to put my business. I can put my business because my employees are going to end up living in a community where the schools are good, the shopping is local, the aesthetics of the community.
Right.
So these are all the things that you throw into the equation. So if we can do 202 like we want to envision it, I think it's going to great boon to the town. And
Sure.
and to the smart growth people, to the Green Yorktown people. I've extended my invitation to them several times.
Right.
I guess now that I've ran my mouth for the last couple of weeks, they'll understand I'm probably not going to change my mind on Costco.
Right.
But the idea is, I think that a smarter approach to this whole thing is what I always say is like life is a lot like catching medicine balls. If you stick your chest out, you're going to get yourself knocked down. But if you start to embrace it, you can actually you can grab a hold of it and toss it back. So the analogy being, you can start working with what we have and what's there, and what the investment wants to be in the towns. Take what's coming our way, and do something great with it.
Embrace it.
Yeah, embrace it and do something great with it, because that's where the opportunities are.
Right.
are,
Right, absolutely.
you know?
But will the October 15 public hearing be televised? Or? Because I know it's in the community center.
Tom?
there.
You're televising that, right?
It will be on video? Okay.
Won't be
Right.
streaming live?
It won't be live, right? Yeah.
So the town is not responsible for any edits, right, Tom?
Right. Okay, so anyhow, I think it's time to wrap it up, and it was a very vigorous discussion. It was very good, and we thank Joanna Calley for writing the letter, helping us to, to talk about that. It's obviously the most critical issue, I'd say, in town right now. It's as far as
Well,
people who are concerned.
It's funny. I think there's all these storms over things that really, you know what? The Costco in out is not the major issues with this town.
Right.
And I think they should, the public's got to realize that. This
Right.
is people are very passionate about it on both sides, and it's great, and it'll be, all be worked out. Public should understand it's an as-of-right development. Planning board would be hard-pressed to deny it because the standard is arbitrary and capriciousness, and would be arbitrary and capricious to deny it. So they should understand that it's more likely going to come because it's the zone for that.
Right.
It's an as-of-right development. There's certain restrictions on the town in denying it, so it's probably going to come. But it's not the main, there's so many other issues in this town that really need people's focus and attention.
Right.
And
And good quality issues that you're talking about. I mean, there's some good stuff that's happening here. I got to tell you, after sitting on the board for 2.5 years, it is a pleasure, an absolute pleasure, working with Mike and working with the board members and progressing forward into some new innovative ideas of what we're bringing into the town here and the opportunities that have come onto our table by reaching out.
Right.
We've reached out to them instead of sitting on our hands and saying, no, we don't want, where it's been for, 20 years that we don't want you, we don't want you. Now Yorktown's actually open for business. Like, whoa, people are coming in now.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword that,
Right, and Terrence, in particular, has been very, working very hard behind the scenes to encourage these people. We've got the mall finally came in. Last night we were referring out to the staff the zoning code changes that we need in order to allow them to do their $30-40 million renovation.
Right.
Renovate the mall.
Right,
Yeah, it's
very
great.
important.
I know.
Dying. They couldn't get a door. Now they want to do a $40 million renovation, upgrade it.
Right.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Absolutely wonderful.
And the issue with the town is, these are the issues with the town. The town is that we've got this code that's applicable to the mall,
Right.
which was drawn up in the 1970s,
Right.
which has absolutely no applicability to the way things are
Now,
in 2010,
Well,
Right.
yeah.
12,
Yeah.
So the thing is, they have to be changed, and the easy thing to do is for the board to say, "Oh no, that's the code," and that's stuck with it.
Right.
Our board, at least, is going, "No."
Right.
What we got to do is we got to look how we do. We got to we if we just the easy answer is just to say this is what our code says, and so
Says
no.
this, no.
No.
We're asking them to listen,
right,
figure out how to work with the people.
Right.
And that because today we went with a guy we would do on the other hand of preservation we've got people doing the forest management. We did a forest management plan for Turkey Mountain. We're doing a forest management plan for the 500 acres of open space on the north side of 202,
Right.
behind Costco, behind State Land Corp.
Grand
Met with a
Knolls.
guy today who does forestry plans as well, who also does timber harvesting.
Right.
And his thing is that we can make an enormous amount of. First of all, you got to care for the open space.
Right.
And one of the ways you care for this open space is you have you have a forestry plan.
Right.
And part of that forestry plan is a timbering,
Right.
plan. And he says you can make an enormous amount of money. He's very familiar with the Granite Knolls property because the guy that owned it beforehand, Barisic,
Don't know.
had engaged him. And the thing is to start to look at each piece of property and find out, first of all, for proper forest management, but also for revenue out of if you have a, proper harvesting. This is the stuff that, these are the approaches, these are the things and these are the approaches that you need to take. You need to be proactive about, I always think, and I think Terrence, acts likewise. We don't look at it as, all right, we sit here and react. We look at it as, what, we're the stewards at this point.
Right.
We have the leadership of the town. What are we doing with this stuff?
Right. No, I know.
Let's move it
Right,
forward.
right.
Okay. No, I hate to cut you off,
Yeah,
Supervisor,
go ahead,
but we
no.
have to bring it in under an hour or we'll turn into pumpkins, which at least would make us marketable this time of year. But anyhow, we want to thank Town Councilman Dr. Terrence Murphy for being your guest tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's been a
And
pleasure.
you,
You gotta get,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it, make it a
Yeah, yeah.
frequent, even with our other, even we got other guests.
right,
so,
I know. Okay, we have 50 seconds. So you've been watching Grace Notes with Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace. I'm Bruce Apar of Chase Media Group. Be sure to watch us next time and every time because Yorktown is your town. Thank you.